Probably for 30-hour famine.
24 hours.
I was in the hospital and I had like an IV, so it was all good. Probably a day.
Probably about a whole day.
Short?
Oh, I think it was a week when I had just severe stomach flu.
Back when I was 12, I didn't eat for like 4 months, just for fun.
Probably like a week.
Probably 6 hours.
Okay, obviously, we don't know a whole lot about hunger in our culture. Probably most of us only go a few hours without food. Well, today and tomorrow morning, we are looking at the book of Ruth. And so we're going to start in chapter 1, verse 1. So here we go. It says that in the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land. So a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. If you know anything about the Bible, you will know that the country of Israel or Judah, those were God's people. And the people surrounding those countries, Moab being one of them, those were God's enemies. So this is 2 of God's people experiencing famine, and instead of trusting in God to provide for them, they're going to the enemies to try to provide for them. In verse 2, it goes on to tell us that the man's name was Elimelech. His wife's name was Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem in Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. So now, Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women. One was named Orpah, and the other named Ruth. And they lived there about 10 years. Both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons or her husband. In the Bible, there is often significance on somebody's name. So the meaning of their name usually has something to do with what they're going to do in their life. Elimelech means called by God. Naomi means pleasant. These next 2 are kind of silly. Mahlon and Chilion mean weakly and sickly. Orpah means she who supports, and Ruth means loveliness. And later on in this story, tomorrow, we'll hear more about a man named Boaz, and his name means strength. The story goes on, and we find out that Naomi hears that God has provided food for the Israelites. So what does she do? She packs up and she gets ready to go back. But then she turns to her 2 daughters-in-law and she says to them, God hates me. He killed my son. He killed my husband. Just leave. And here we need to stop and just point out the fact that when famine and hard times hit, these 3 women, they all have really different responses. So first of all, when famine hit Naomi and her whole family, they ran. They ran from God, they ran from trusting in Him, and they went to their enemies, hoping that their enemies would be able to provide for them. But later on, when this hard times hit, and all of the men of the story are killed, Naomi, the mom, she becomes a bitter woman. In fact, she changes her name. So before I told you her name, Naomi, means pleasant. Well, at the end of the story, she says, don't call me Naomi, call me Mara, for I am bitter. She is a bitter woman, and she changes her name to a name that means bitter. She says, I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me, for the Almighty has brought misfortune on me. And isn't that what we often do? We blame God for the bad choices that we've made. Her and her husband were the ones that chose to run away from God and His people and His provision, and they went to their enemies instead. And it was there, while they were in the enemy's land, that her husband died and her sons died, and so she blames God. And Orpah, remember, Orpah means she who supports. Well, as soon as her husband dies and Naomi says, well, just leave. Instead of being supportive, Orpah leaves. So she does not live up to her name. She does the opposite of her name. Ruth, on the other hand, does something that's really extraordinary. Instead of running back to her people and her gods and her culture, she leaves all of that behind to go with Naomi. And she says something that's really, really cool. Naomi said to her, look, your sister-in-law has gone back to your people. Why don't you leave? Go back with her. But Ruth replied, do not urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. And where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. All of us have probably experienced some hard times, and all of us have that same choice that these 3 women have. Naomi, she got bitter. Orpah, she ran back to her other gods. And Ruth, she trusted in God. Which one are you?